Hi, everyone. Welcome to my Into the Void review of Last of Us, Episode 3. I will go into detail about the episode, and then after that, I'll give you my feelings on the episode. So, Episode 3 starts out with Joel and Ellie traveling through the countryside on their way to find his brother. We finally get to see the dynamic that exists between them as they trade verbal jabs at each other. Clearly, they're two people that don't want to be near each other. They come across a plane that has crashed on a hillside. Ellie marvels at how people get to fly on a plane, while Joel complains about how expensive the meals are on said plane that ended in such a horrific crash. Ellie comes at the world with fresh eyes, while Joel has a more chiseled and hardened view of the same world. Ellie asks Joel how the world became the way it did. Where did the infection originate? Everyone knows that the infection is spread by bites, but who bit the first biter? Say that 3 times fast. Joel explains it's spread from tainted bread, grain, or flour. I'm not quite sure, but he basically explains that it was from a tainted food factory that poisoned several people with the infection. In the beginning, there's also a scene where they come upon an abandoned building. Ellie discovers a door that leads to the basement of the building, where an infected is stuck under some rubble. Ellie looks at it in fascination and then plunges a knife in its head. The episode flashbacks to an earlier time when the infection first spread. We are introduced to Bill, who is played by Nick Offerman, who has built himself a bunker below his house and comes out after people have been evacuated to be quarantined or killed, as explained by Joel to Ellie earlier in the episode. By the way, if you don't know Nick Offerman, he's played in several TV series. I remember him from Devs, a 2020 Hulu miniseries. You should really check it out. He's really good in that one. Anyway, he comes out to a town that is vacant and deserted. He quickly takes advantage of the situation by raiding the town for free gas and Home Depot supplies, among other things. He lives like a king, eating sumptuous steak and drinking exquisite wine while watching through security cameras infected get killed by his devious traps outside. Time passes on, and then Bill runs into Frank, played by Murray Bartlett, who has fallen into one of his traps. Bill is wary of Frank, thinking he will bring other people to ruin his peaceful, lonely existence. Frank ends up persuading Bill to help him, which ends with Bill preparing a delicious meal paired with exotic wine. A meal he has undoubtedly had by himself countless times. One thing leads to another, and the two become romantically involved. Some years pass, I want to say 3, but I kind of don't remember, but I think it's 3 years. And you find out they have become partners, but Frank has become unhappy. He wants to have friends involved in their life. Bill likes being secluded into himself. Frank tells Bill he met a woman through the radio, much to his chagrin. This is where we find out how Joel met Bill, and it happens when Frank introduces Joel and Tess to Bill over a dinner he invites them to. Frank and Tess converse over how they can help each other, while Joel has a much harder time convincing Bill that they could use each other's help. He comments on how he could use new barbed wire over his fence to keep out raiders. Bill's stubborn and tells them they will make do without their help. Over time, Frank is able to mellow a stance over being self-dependent and non-trusting, and Bill and Joel become reluctant friends. You kind of get the idea after Frank surprises Bill with some strawberries that were planted from seeds given to them by Tess and Joel. More time passes, I want to say 10 years, and you find that Frank has become sick to the point of being in a wheelchair. This is after a scene before the time jump when Bill gets shot by some raiders who try to raid their property at night. It looks like Bill dies but ends up living and ultimately takes care of Frank, who happens to be sick from some disease, possibly cancer. As time passes, the disease becomes too much for Frank to bear, so he asks Bill to poison him by pouring some undetermined or unspecified substance into his drink after one last meal together. Bill obliges him after many tears and ends up tricking him by poisoning himself as well. Frank ends up finding out what he has done, but doesn't seem too upset and finds it oddly romantic. Bill takes Frank to his bed one last time as they die together, living a satisfied life. Funny enough, I hear that this is where the show deviates from the game by 180 degrees. I don't remember because I haven't played the game in a long time, but I guess in the video game, Frank kills himself because he got infected. And Joel finds a letter later that explains Frank ran away from Bill because he hadn't changed his isolating ways. And then after Joel gives him the letter, Bill cusses Frank out and throws it away. So that's quite an interesting fact, how much there's a deviation from the TV show and the video game. So anyway, after Bill and Frank's demise, we fast forward back to Joel and Ellie, who venture to Bill and Frank's property. They, of course, find that both are dead through a letter that Ellie finds. Bill also gives Joel a battery and gun so that he can protect the deceased Tess. Joel goes outside to compose himself and then makes his way to Bill's bunker, where he finds a mother lode of guns. He still denies Ellie a gun even after she exclaims how there's a wall full of them. Later, Ellie retrieves a gun from one that is hidden in desk without Joel knowing any better. Joel and Ellie end up taking Bill's truck, yet another vehicle Ellie has never been in, to go find his brother and a doctor that can help Ellie with her condition. Before this, Joel makes Ellie promise to never bring up Tess or tell anyone about the bite she has on her arm. Ellie agrees, and they move on with their journey. As they leave, Ellie pops in a tape into the tape deck, even though Joel tells her not to, but then quickly tells her to keep it on when the song is Linda Ronstadt's Long, Long Time. This is the same song that kindled love between Bill and Frank. The episode ends, and that's it. So overall, I enjoyed this episode a lot. I liked how Joel explained the origin of the affection to Ellie, something that isn't explained a lot in the video game. I like how it explained how Joel met Bill and how their begrudging relationship started. The relationship between Bill and Frank was heartfelt and emotional. It really brought home the fact people still need to have each other even in a desolate world that The Last of Us depicts. And while that might be a little too idealistic compared to the events that transpired in the video game, I still feel it was earned due to the excellent acting by both Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett. However, the events that happened to Bill and Frank in the video game seem to be more in tone with the bleakness of the world that The Last of Us conveys. Also, I liked how we see a little bit of respect creep into Joel and Ellie's relationship as they seem to form a somewhat shaky bond. In a way, you see Frank's dynamic in Ellie and Bill's dynamic in Joel. So, episode 3, it gets a solid 9 out of 10 from me. And there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this. So have a good day and stay safe. Bye.